Now, at Research and Innovation Days this morning, and we are seeing a lot of plenaries back to back. We're going to have some great speakers for you. But this afternoon and tomorrow will follow a slightly different format. There will be a short plenary setting out a key question or a key challenge that will break it down then into 5 live panel sessions to discuss the challenge from different perspectives. But first of all, let me welcome you to the Research and Innovation Days 2021's very first session. And today we are looking at cities and citizens delivering on missions. Now, I'll be your moderator for this session as well. Cities and citizens, of course, play a crucial role when it comes to implementing the ambitious goals of EU missions. And this session will explore their roles and their contributions to the mission's goals. To explain, EU missions are ambitious and bold commitments to find solutions to societal challenges. They leverage the power of research and innovation together with policy resources from across the EU. And this work is taking place in 5 very important areas: cancer, adaptation to climate change, including societal transformation, healthy oceans, seas, coastals and inland waters, climate neutral and smart cities, and then soil, health and food. So we're going to look at these missions through the lens of 5 speakers who will give us the European, national, regional and local perspectives on the topic. So to get the discussion rolling, I will hand the floor over to Commissioner Maria Gabriel. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Welcome guest speakers, online audience. I'm so happy to see so much familiar faces. And I'd like to start immediately by saying that you remember during our last edition of R&I Days, that was one of the main highlights when the chairs of our mission boards gave me the reports with the concrete recommendations. So again, the first session of our R&I Days 2021 is dedicated to mission. That's one of our main novelties. At the same time, I'm very glad that we have this opportunity to continue our conversation on how we can tackle key challenges together, what is new, and how we can innovate. So thank you very much. I'm very, very glad to be here together with all of you.
Well, let me start, first of all, by asking you, what's happened since the last R&I Days?
Well, that's a journey, because remember, we started with the reports and the concrete recommendations. That was somehow our preparatory phase. And actually, we are entering in the implementation phase. First, that was very important since the beginning to co-create these missions together with our citizens. So what's happened in 1 year, that we were in different member states, in different regions, together with our mayors, with our regions, with the members of the boards, to discuss what are the main adequate actions and how to implement them. I remember our first discussion in Cluj-Napoca for the mission on cities. Thank you very much, Mayor, for being again with us. Thank you very much for your strong engagement. So I think that we should continue in this direction, not only to involve citizens in the co-design and the co-creation, but after to see how together we can better implement in order to be adequate with our proposals. The second thing is that now we have the new Horizon Europe program, we adopted it, and we have the first work program for 21-22. That means that for every single mission, we have 5 million euros for the implementation. So that's why now the challenge is really to identify what are those actions that will convince. We need to convince all our citizens, all our regions, that because we are taking action at European level, there will be a concrete benefit in the daily lives everywhere of our citizens everywhere in Europe. So I think that that's now one of the main challenges. The third important element is that, of course, we need already to start to think about this implementation phase. That means that we have not only to define what are our objectives and what will be the first actions, but to have clear indicators about the follow-up, the monitoring, and that's why I think that our 3 key words are impact, synergies, and inclusiveness. And I think that with all the people presented here, we are showing that we are in a good way to realize them.
We've certainly achieved a lot in just 12 short months. But perhaps you could recall for our audience, some of whom may be completely new to the idea of missions, what are the key elements that you find important and what are you expecting for this session?
Well, first of all, I would like really to continue co-developing our implementation plans, because as I already said it, we need here not only to have a vision, what about the objectives and the ambitions of our mission, but how to achieve them. And that's why I see some features. First, citizens at the driving seat. It's really important to continue to co-work, to co-create together with all of them. Second, I think that now it's an opportunity to continue to be ambitious, because I must say thank you to all our members of mission boards. They were ambitious in their proposals. Now it's up to us to see how we can realize these ambitions. Because yes, 3 million safe lives by 2030 for the mission on cancer, 75% of our soils in good health by 2030, 100 smart cities and climate neutral cities all over Europe. I think that here we should continue. And that's why the third important element for me is to be bold, to be innovative, to think the unthinkable. And that's why, my plea is, yes, let's think out of the box. No one should be left behind. And finally, what I expect is, as always, concrete ideas, actions, and common joint efforts in order to implement. So I really think that it's time to pass from the words to the actions.
I think that's great words. I'm really very inspiring. I love the idea of people at the centre and cross-sectoral solutions to big problems that we can really only work together to achieve. So thank you very much, Commissioner. I think maybe we should get to know our audience a little bit better now. So we're going to go to our Slido feature. I know there's so many of you who have joined today, and I wanted to ask, using the Slido tool, and also you will find it on the platform, what area are you working in? What field are you working in? Vote now. We've got a few options there. You've got academia and research, civil society and the non-profit sector, industry, business and private sector, or policy making and public administration. Now, I'm reading from but I'm keeping an eye on the big screen. Let us see. Please do vote, and we're going to have a look at those results. Let's see now how people are voting. So far, academia and research is way out in front. I suppose, given it's Research and Innovation Days, it's hardly a surprise that there's so many of you. But of course, there are people from industry, business, policy making, public administration, and the private sector also tuning in. Do keep an eye on that, because we do want that feedback from you throughout the next 2 days. With that, I think we will turn now to our first, after the Commissioner, of course, our first remote speaker who is joining us from, we have Markku Markkula, who is the Vice President of the European Committee of the Regions and Chair of the Espoo City Board and President of the Helsinki region. I'm not sure where you're joining us from today, Markku, but we are delighted that you are. We're very, very pleased to see you. So please, to open the discussion, let me ask you, how can missions be included at a regional and a national level?
Okay, first, thank you, Commissioner Gabriel. Thank you, Maria. You can really count on us, the policymakers at the local and regional level. This is really, the missions are a new and urgently needed European approach, and we will for sure be very active on this. The missions will require innovation in governance, not only what we normally mean with the multi-level governance, so EU, national, regional, and local, but also innovative ways to organize the local activities, which then includes strong commitment of policymakers, personally as well, and all forms of communities, including citizen participation in innovation ecosystems. Regionally, these missions can become real-life game changers. That's something that I stress heavily, by mobilizing all key actors, including large and small companies, research organizations, schools, universities, to work together with cities in ecosystems, co-creating a regional ecosystem for breakthrough innovations. Cities are the orchestrators of all measures required. That's the level where the key action happens. The concepts needs to use best quadruple helix and living labs experiences to form strategic platforms, modernizing urban planning methods in public-private collaboration to reach the ambitious mission targets. And adding to these international partnerships, the European added value will be evident. Bench learning is a key mentality. So not just benchmarking, knowing where we are compared to the others, but learning and bench acting, moving to action. Orchestration is the essential way to operate in this. It integrates various projects to break all kinds of silos and barriers, and it requires moving to use all potential financing instruments. These include using the recovery and resilience facility, green and digital, and other investments in renewing societal and business processes to reach the more advanced and globally competitive level. And it accelerates all the measures to be based on regional climate neutrality roadmaps. And I also refer to the establishment of the ERA hubs. They help in experimenting, rapid prototyping, testing, demonstrating, and scaling up the forerunner outcomes for the European-wide use.
Thank you, Marco. Can you give me some concrete examples from Finland about how cities and missions work together, please?
Okay, concrete examples from Finland. They show how the concepts of the EU missions can be co-created and orchestrated by cities. The cities here, they are traditionally collaborating a lot with companies, but the 6 cities have spent the last 7 years in our cohesion financing, urban development, learning and creating a lot together. This means also extensive industrial investments to reach the ambition targets. And we, with these big 6 biggest cities in Finland, we've already kind of analyzed and made plans to organize our urban smart city renewal and reaching the carbon neutrality by 2030 through mainly private smart city investments worth even billions of euros. So it's private investments that we need to mobilize, and there the cities are really co-creators and initiators, and we are very eager to move ahead. Governance of mission needs to be to have a clear link to the regional smart specialization strategies, especially now when these are upgraded to S4. So sustainability is there, and smart specialization should play a crucial role in creating effective European partnerships to be linked to Horizon missions. Why and how then? In brief, by integrating measures supported and accelerated by regional cohesion financing, national recovery and resilience plans, and again, integrating to that private investments. And let me, on behalf of the Committee of the Regions, as well all our cities and regions in Europe, so propose that we should actually deepen, it's not just the call for cities and regions to join the missions, but first we should, together with the Commission, open a very interactive process to get regions and cities involved in very many different ways in the missions. And the secondly, it's contracting with the extensive number of forerunner communities, not only city as such, but the communities there where the citizens in different roles operate for testing the innovative mission solutions in real life settings. And thirdly, then we need to agree on the contribution of demonstrator communities to the large-scale deployment of innovative solutions and to the scaling up of the best solutions for European-wide use. And Joint Research Center, as an example, they definitely can and should develop under the umbrella Science Meets Regions, how to boost, how to train all the actors, and that then we would be promptly sharing all the results to European-wide use. And let me just conclude that missions could and should work in synergy also with each other. examples like smart city develop new technology-assisted urban solutions and professionally advanced concepts, learning processes for all missions. Healthy soils help climate adaptation and the mitigation through carbon sequestration. Climate neutral ports will also improve the health of oceans and inland waters as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco, for those words. Let me turn now to someone who's working in local government, the very area that is probably closest to the citizens and to people on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to welcome our next speaker, is Dr. Emil Bach from County of Cleo in Romania. Emil, tell us more about this. I mean, how do we put people at the centre? And tell me a bit about the concrete examples that you have and your ambitions.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Maria Gabriel. It's such a pleasure to see you again, my dear friend, Marco, dear colleagues. First of all, I think the EU missions help us with the attractiveness of the European model, with the attractiveness of the European way of life. And I think this is also about the conference about the future of Europe. How can we maintain the attractiveness of the European way of life, the attractiveness of the European missions? And here, Commissioner Maria Gabriel and your team, you did a great job in order to help us to keep the attractiveness of the European model. Second, our city can benefit or could benefit from the mission guidance on how to design the strategy and how to access financial support to make our ambitions reality. And now talking about ambitions, there are many of them. I do not want to tell all of them, but I will mention some of them. So first, ambition. We plan to have our city climate neutral as soon as possible. We cannot have a climate neutral Europe without a climate neutral city or climate neutral cities in Europe. And from that, we have the strategy to have a climate neutral city ahead 2050. The second ambition, to have by 2026 a green public transport in the city. Already we have half of the public transport green in the city. Our ambition, in order to increase the health of the population and to have a green city, the public transport should be free by 2026. The third, let's say, ambition is to bring or to modernize 200 hectares of green spaces in the city using local, national, and European money in order, again, to have a greener city. Last but not least, we plan to plant 100,000 trees by 2030. And I will mention something about another ambition. And Maria Gabriel was, I think, the very first one who put us on board, saying even before the pandemic that we have a problem with digital skills, with the digital gap, having in mind that the jobs of the future are supposed to have digital skills, and 45 or 44% of the Europeans do not have basic digital skills, and 90% of the future jobs will have digital skills incorporated. Maria Gabriel mentioned that before the pandemic, and the pandemic even made worse the situation. So our ambition is to have a very digital city. Everybody in the world is asking who is going to be next, where will be next Silicon Valley. My question is, because Silicon Valley is a state of mind, can be everywhere. My question is, who will be next Estonia from the digital point of view? So our aim as a city is to have a public administration where our citizens have to come to the administration just for three things: to get married to the mayor, to get divorced, we do not recommend, but it's life, and third, to have the ID or to transfer the property. But for all the other things, the digitalization and the digital era to solve the problem in order to offer to our citizens the best solution possible. And also with EU missions, we can do that. And as I said, keep our attractiveness of the European model. Thank you.
Thank you, Emil. I should tell you, that answer you gave, you didn't just throw a date at us. You said as soon as possible. The Commissioner and I both really liked that. That's a really good ambition, not to just stick to some arbitrary figure. But let me ask you about involving stakeholders. How do you do that? I mean, what strategies have worked for you in bringing people on board?
Here is the power of togetherness. We learned in the last decade is the only key to have a success. Bring your community together. I used to have a word which is something like that. Build up an ecosystem, not an ego system. So if you are able to bring public administration, citizens, academia, universities, citizens, and civil society together on the same table in eco approach, not ego approach, you have the opportunity to build a strong community. And last but not least, I would mention about our Center for Innovation and Civic Imagination. What does it mean? We invite our people to have an institutional place where to dream about our city, to talk about our future plans, to have the ideas, to criticize, or to see how do you foresee, how do you think about the future of your kids in our city. So the Center for Civic Imagination, I think it's one of the components who helped us to design the strategy and to implement after that with concrete projects using the European money, the national money, and the local money. And again, the attractiveness of the European way of life is the key in the end, based on what you are doing in Brussels. But it's true, innovation cannot be dictated from Brussels. You can help us, you can facilitate us. We, at the local level, have to be innovative, have to be more creative in order to use the capacity of our citizens to be on the first seat in the car.
Thank you, Emil. You articulated all so very well. Thank you. It's been a delight listening to you. I like this spirit of togetherness, this idea. And we're going to explore this further. We are based in the Brussels capital region, so we have taken advantage of that. And we're delighted to have joining us in the studio Barbara Tracta, who is the Secretary of State for the Brussels capital region, responsible for economic transition and scientific research. Barbara, thank you very much. The same question to you, based on your experience, how do we bring stakeholders and people on board? And are there any particular barriers that we need to overcome?
Yeah, I thank you also for the invitation and for being here in Brussels. I'm really happy to be here in person, to be able to be here in person. So I think to bring the citizens in, you need to inform them and to involve them, just as he already said. If we go back to the very concept of the mission in the Mazzucato report, and our inspiration being the mission of the past, we see that we have to involve the people. The EU mission, they have to get into the EU citizens' mind first. It should be the first step we have to do. And we have to reach all the citizens, not only the citizens which are already used to participate. They are always saying yes when we ask them, and we love them, of course, but they are not enough. We need to reach every people, and also the people hard to reach. Maybe to do that, we have to diversify our communication sources and to try harder. And I think in the mission Carbon Neutral Cities, we have these climate contracts, these city climate contracts, and they have to be signed by a different power level. And I think it could be a good tool to spread the same message from different sources.
Well, Barbara, I know that you're doing an awful lot, but can you give us an example of a specific project that's being designed in a participatory way from Brussels? Yeah,
with pleasure. In Brussels, we are running right now a project called Brussels Donuts. It is based on the book of Kate Raworth, the British economist, the Donut Economics. Our challenge the challenge assigned by Kate was to do it with the people. We had to get the people to participate to bake our own donut. And it has been a bigger challenge than expected because of the pandemic. It's complicated to get the people to participate when they can't actually meet or be together. But still, it took off. We managed to bake our own donuts with more than 200 people participating. And they even suggested to develop more indicators, more than 100 new indicators we don't have right now, to assess whether Brussels guarantees the basic fundamental rights or respects the boundaries of the planet. So it has been an excellent participation, I must say. I'm really proud of it. The enthusiasm is huge, and I think that's really important also, to have enthusiasm and participation. And our goal now is to keep this enthusiasm alive among the citizens, the academia, the policymakers. I'm really enthusiastic about it. Also the public administration, and I think it's also a key for the mission. If you want them to last and to succeed, we have to get the people to participate and to have this enthusiasm.
Well, since you mentioned the mission, I know you're responsible for scientific research. What can the R&I communities do to contribute to the missions?
Yeah, I think they could really contribute if they open to the world. We also have in Brussels a program called Co-Creation. It brings together academia, researchers and non-researchers, and citizens. They have to search and to find new solutions for a more resilient city. So they work on water management, on tiny houses, mobile houses for homeless people, on how to welcome refugees. With refugees, almost they are already here. So what we see is that when you bring them together, with transdisciplinarity and this experiential knowledge, they find new solutions, innovative solutions. So the diversity of the expertise is also really important. I think it's also in the mission, and it could be a really good tool and a key to help the academia and the people working together.
Well, thank you very much, Barbara, for joining us and for giving us your experience. I'm sure we will have more to talk about in the sidelines as well. But I want to bring in now, I would like to stress really a point about the wide umbrella of missions. And I'm going to pass the floor to Maria Vasilaku to share her experience with citizen engagement during her tenure as on the city's mission board. Maria, of course, you're currently the board member of the area of climate neutral and smart cities and former deputy mayor of Vienna. I'm going to start with a question for you, Maria. You were involved in the citizen consultation for the cities. Tell us about that. What insights do you have to share with us?
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Commissioner Maria Gabriel, and hello to everybody across Europe watching today. Now, I remember very well the first time that I joined a citizen consultation with Finnish cities. And I have to say, I was actually surprised. I had, expected them to be very active, to be highly interested, but I had not expected this degree of enthusiasm. And this enthusiasm is what I came across throughout numerous citizens events across Europe. I think the takeaways is the importance of co-designing the missions and the importance of working together. And this is something I think that we all realize if we want to change the world, we can only do it together. But it then also means for the missions that already the design of the mission has to be worked out together. And of course, we have to keep working this way. What I have found out as well is that it is extremely important to communicate the tangible benefits, the benefits of everyday life, not only to the citizens, but also to cities and mayors. I'm being asked all the time, what is it that the mission brings to us beyond climate neutrality? And I always say it's life quality, it's better air quality, it's water quality. It is healthier and more active lifestyles. It is economic growth, of course, and job creation, and so on and so forth. What citizens have pointed out most of the times is how important it is to change our lifestyles, to change our mindsets. And in order to do so, in order to reach this, I think it is extremely important to have channels of communication with the citizens and provide citizens as well with channels of communication so that they can communicate their needs and visions. Which brings me to the most important part of the takeaways, I personally believe that, for one thing, we need to provide also the types of financing, the types of programs that will enable citizen action. So just to give you a few examples, I'm talking about green bonds at the local level, crowdsourcing, I'm talking about buyer programs, I'm talking about volunteering programs. But even more so, it's about allocating budget means, once again, for citizen action, because what we find out is that citizens come up with ideas themselves and need support in order to bring them to reality. So I think in the end that what we're talking about when thinking about the missions is public plural partnerships. So it's a new PPP, right? It's a PPP between the public hand and businesses and the citizens. And what do I mean by this? Just to give you an example, it's about bringing communication businesses and smart appliances together with the citizens to give them only an example and the opportunity of monitoring their energy consumption in real time, of monitoring their water consumption in real time, which means that they can then develop very easily an individual active part. But one last and very good example from Vienna, we introduced a couple of years ago citizen solar power plants. And this was actually a public plural partnership because you had the public hand, you had the electricity company, and then you had the citizens that are actually participating by investing a small amount of money. And in the meantime, we have almost 30 citizen solar power plants in Vienna. So it's been a huge success, and it just proves that people are enthusiastic, they want to be part of this, and we need them to be part of this in order to change our cities and Europe and the world.
Thank you, Maria. I'm going to give you a comment that we've had coming in from some of our viewers. EU missions impact synergies and inclusiveness will be vital for the next steps. Couldn't agree more. And then a question, how do we bring citizens on board with the missions, inform and involve them? So my question, Maria, is what concrete roles are there for citizens?
Well, I think first and foremost, we need structures that enable citizen involvement. And I think that there are different roles. There are roles that they may develop as individuals when they try to change the way they go about day-to-day life. A second role that there is in terms of communities and citizens groups that may be so active as actually in the city of Groningen, where I was able to meet with a citizens group that are right now negotiating with the city and the energy company, trying to create a local heating network and to retrofit their own homes. And last but not least, again, it's about encouraging citizen action. So it's not only about the public hand coming up with ideas what could be done, it is also about citizens, once again, developing ideas themselves, how they can transform their own neighborhoods and organizing themselves and receiving financial and other kinds of support from the public hand in order to make this, to turn this into reality.
Thank you very much, Maria, for your thoughts there. Now, let's go back to our audience because we've heard from our speakers about ways in which cities, in which national, regional and local government can involve the citizens in missions. But we're going to ask, what are the most impactful ways to engage citizens in delivering on the missions? We've given you three options. It's engage with citizens as users, consumers, producers and shareholders. It involves citizens in the design of local initiatives, and it is design local communication campaigns and volunteering options. And almost 300 of you have already voted, and more than half have said it's engage with citizens as users, consumers, producers and shareholders. But the other two are also getting some votes as well. Commissioner Gabriel, what's your reaction to this? What do you think? Are you surprised?
Well, I think that it's very coherent with what was said previously, because it's true that on one side we need to involve our citizens since the beginning in the co-design of local initiatives, of regional initiatives, and other, of course, you all raised this point, it's absolutely important to better communicate, to spread the information, and to see how we can touch as much people as possible. So that's why I think that we need here to innovate somehow, because we have to use some structures, Maria, or different channels, not only with the Committee of the Regions, not only with the mayors, but I'm commissioner responsible for education, and I'm thinking about one of our novelties, Blue and Green Erasmus. What a better way to involve young people and to spread these ambitions of our missions. So I think that here it will be very important to continue to create synergies with all the other instruments, platforms that we have. One important thing and very concrete, we are planning to have an online information hub where everyone who wishes can be involved throughout Europe. And here for us what is important is to insist on partner engagement. And when we talk about communication, yes, actually, Maria, we take on board this idea to have budget dedicated to citizens' engagement. For me, what is important is to join this with communication efforts. And in every one of our implementation plans, we would like to have this communication part. And of course, that will be up to us to use this possibility. Final point. I think that we are all aware that not only Horizon Europe who will help us to succeed and to achieve our ambitions. That's why that's the moment for me to say big thank you to all my colleagues, commissioners, that are helping us, because when we talk about our oceans and waters, it's crucial to build synergies with our policy on environment, with the different teams, with Commissioner Sinkevicius, or when we talk about smart cities, to talk not only and to work together with Commissioner Valean. So for me, that's one of the other messages, that we need to continue to promote this necessary synergy and necessary coordination between us, to communicate better and at the same time innovate with citizens, and because exactly they have diverse ideas in order to better promote the objectives of our missions, because we are not talking about something general, we are talking about concrete benefits for every single citizen in Europe.
Well, let's go back to the audience again then with another question, since we're bringing them in a concrete way. We're asking, what is the framework conditions for cities to deliver on missions? What's the best way to achieve that? You've got three options there again. That is support from the national and regional authorities, expert advice on assessing funding and financing, or guidance for setting up local mission supporting alliances. Again, I can see the numbers ratcheting up, hundreds of people answering that question. And it seems support from national and regional authorities is top. Commissioner Gabriel, with your thoughts on that?
Well, I fully agree. Here we have three key components. First, yes, we must strengthen our cooperation with all regional authorities. That's why, dear Marco, we have our joint action plan with the Committee of the Regions, first ever in the history of both institutions. And I think that here we need to promote some of our new platforms. Mayor Bach, we created our platform between the European Innovation Capitals and the European Capitals of Culture. Our first discussion was focused on New European Bauhaus, and the next one is on mission. And here what I would like to say is that this platform is open to all the cities, big, small, so don't hesitate to share with us your ideas. The second, I would like to insist, we need to seize the momentum with the recovery and resilience facility plans. I must say that we already have some information, and some of our member states definitely will work in order to build synergies with our missions. I'm thinking here about Austria, about Czech Republic, about Greece or Denmark. So we have here very good examples. What will be crucial is rapidly to identify where we have a critical mass of investments and how we can accelerate the development and to achieve better results. Final point, what I would like to react is about provide funding and advisory mechanism. I know that this question is very, very interesting. Just maybe one perspective, we are thinking about to create a label to certify that cities have a solid action plan and investment plan. And that's our objective, is to attract in that way more investors, more partners to engage in the achievement of the objectives of the mission. And finally, yes, we need to work well all together. It's absolutely important to have everyone on board and to see how we can create local missions and alliances. And that's why it's with a direct link with the first question, Jennifer. We have here the strong engagement of our academic and research community, but we need to work closely with our industry, with our regions, with our civil society, with our schools, with our teachers. So I think that here we have three extremely strong key elements, and I fully agree with them.
Thank you for that. So do remember, keep sharing on social media. Use the hashtag RIDays so that we can see what people are thinking. Even if you haven't answered the poll question, I will be asking more questions later on. Now, we have just a few minutes left, so I'm going to wrap it up by asking each of our speakers, what is your biggest hope for EU missions? Marco, let me start with you.
It's really to get everyone committed. So we need a lot of different activities. So if I would do one thing, I would invite the people from other parts of Europe to come to Finland, to go to Lapland, to our Lake District, to Espoo and so on, or in organized innovation camps. So where people with different backgrounds will share their experiences, learn to collaborate, and this way to create this avenue to become game changers.
Thank you. Emil, to you now. You told us about your ambitions. Tell us about your hopes for missions in general.
My hope is to have a Europe as a place where every citizen of Europe in every corner of the European Union feels at home and feels proud of their local, national and European identity in a Europe which is green, digital, inclusive, resilient, and with the best quality of life.
Thank you, Emil. That's quite a checklist that we all hope for, indeed. Barbara, what are your hopes?
I hope that the mission will raise enthusiasm and also stimulate both researchers, academia, and the citizens, because that is what we really need to protect the fundamental rights of everyone and the limits of the planet.
Thank you. And Maria, your hopes?
Well, concept
is that we maintain our pace and level of ambition and make the most of the momentum, inspire and empower the people across Europe to create a beacon for our continent and for the world.
Thank you, Maria. My mistake. Two Marias. I didn't indicate which one I was speaking to. Commissioner Maria Gabriel, please, your hopes for the EU.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, my hope is really go from concept to action. We have now our policy context, policy framework with a strong Horizon Europe program, with strong synergies with other European instruments. We have these measures and these means at our disposal. So now it's really up to us with values, with inspiration, with ambition to get quickly to work and implement our plans on the ground.
Thank you very much, and thank you to our speakers. I must say I'm already enjoying R&I days already. With Commissioner Gabriel's hope for the missions, I'm going to close this first plenary by taking this discussion from the studio out to the streets of Brussels. So let's hear what Brussels citizens think about how they can be effectively engaged and how every one of us can transform our cities.
Well, I'm really delighted to be today in the very heart of Brussels, in the Carrefour de l'Europe, the European roundabout of the city, in front of the Innoviris Arc, which has been set up by the Brussels region to show to citizens of Brussels and of Europe really how much research and how much innovation is taking place here in Brussels. And what we are doing in the European Commission during these 2 days, we are for the first time able to connect the European Research and Innovation Days with this Brussels initiative. So I'm really, I must say, particularly happy with that, because that shows to citizens that research and innovation is not just a policy which is carried out in labs far away or in offices and discussed by research ministers. It's a daily reality, and of course a daily reality which results really improves the lives of citizens, and I think brings Europe into the future, I hope a greener and digital future. So doing it with this real connection with Brussels, which hosts us, is I think a very, very positive development. And so I came to the Carrefour de l'Europe this afternoon. I hope to meet a few citizens and see how they feel about science and research, because science and research is a highly positive, progress-oriented, future-oriented human effort, but it also creates many questions and sometimes concerns with citizens. But before that, I have really the pleasure to also now meet with the Brussels Minister for Research and Innovation at the origin of this initiative, Barbara Trachter. We know each other from the council, where Barbara represented Belgium for a while. Yeah. Our two communication teams really found each other and suggested that we connect the Research and Innovation Days with Innoviris. Barbara.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm really glad to welcome you to this Innovation Gate. So it represents also a transition between the world where we stand now, so a world where we are falling short on social rights, and at the same time we are overshooting the boundaries of the planet. So it's the transition between this world and a greener world on the other side of the gate. And to go through this gate, we will need researchers, innovators, and citizens. That's why we are here in the center of Brussels. So we hope we can show this also to the other countries of Europe. We will need the Green Deal. We will need Horizon Europe and its mission to go through this gate with the citizens of Europe.
Every citizen can act in their micro-location. So whether it's a street, a neighborhood, and then of course cities. So we can all contribute. It can be through actively participating in the decision making and like following policies and following some regulations from the cities' governments and so on. And then of course there are several ways that we can contribute, like for example using more of public transport. That's one of the easiest things to do.
Pour veiller à la santé de nos océans, je réduirais vraiment mon utilisation de plastique.
Fietsen is echt het allereerste. Fietsen en geen plastic kopen. Waarschijnlijk ook vegetariër zijn, of in ieder geval flexitariër. Ja, zo zijn er een aantal kleine dingen die je in je dagelijks leven echt wel kan toevoegen. Maar ja.
Alors aujourd'hui, un citoyen peut s'impliquer dans tous les grands enjeux en étant informé et en s'informant. Alors le changement doit d'abord venir du citoyen, parce que s'il est impliqué, si les citoyens sont impliqués, le politique devra s'adapter aux choix des citoyens s'il veut garder la confiance des citoyens. Donc pour moi, c'est d'abord le citoyen qui doit s'impliquer en premier.
Alors je pense que déjà l'engagement vient de l'information, donc avant tout c'est s'informer. Comment au quotidien je peux essayer de faire des choses qui changent, comment s'investir. Je pense que c'est déjà beaucoup d'informations et par l'information vient le changement, vient des habitudes qui se créent, parce que si on est concerné, alors naturellement on veut quand même essayer de faire bouger les choses.
Ik vind Brussel een superleuke stad, hè, met alles wat er is. Maar als er nog meer betaalbare biowinkels met kort circuit zijn, en dat zij misschien gesubsidieerd worden in een bepaalde manier, waardoor het ook betaalbaar is voor iedereen om naar dat soort winkels te komen. Nog meer fietspaden zijn, nog meer cafés waar er ook plek is om te spelen voor kinderen.